Happy Sunday, everyone. I'm Reverend Kathy McCall, the minister at Unity North Spiritual Center in Coon Rapids, Minnesota. So we're glad you're with us this morning for our Sunday lesson, and this is August 20th, 2020. 320s. This has to be a great day. Well, whoever you are, wherever you are on your spiritual path, you're always welcome at Unity. And we are, Unity North is part of a greater worldwide unity movement that is the publishers of the Daily Word magazine and has been holding 130 years of prayer vigil through Silent Unity, the prayer ministry of the unity movement. So prayer is the heart and soul of unity. So if you're new with us, check out our website, unitynorthmn.org. And we're in the midst of Good For You Days week. And there are still, I think, healing sessions to be had. And so go online and check it out. And coming up very soon on October 3rd is our special virtual event with Dr. Matthew Fox. So I'm in the midst of 4 weeks of creation spirituality to help introduce you to his work. This is our second week, and you can find the first one online as well on our website, and should be on Facebook also. So today we begin with the Via Negativa. The lesson title today is Mystery and Silence Via Negativa. So I'm going to read a different daily word today instead of Sundays because of Via Negativa. Sundays is smile, and that's a wonderful daily word, but it's the opposite flavor of the Via Negativa in a sense. So I'm going to read the one from Wednesday, and it's comfort. So I just invite you to relax and get still and take in that word, comfort. God's love comforts me. I turn to prayer for comfort and solace, especially during times of grief and loss. Whether that loss pertains to a job, a goal, a relationship, or a death, I am gentle with myself as I process my grief. My mind and heart may grasp for reasons why. I may never know, but I soothe myself by remembering that I can find comfort in the spirit within, and I feel blessed. I'm safe to be exactly as I am as I process my grief. If I need to cry, I do so freely. However, I express my emotions throughout the transitions in my life. Divine love envelops and supports me. As I accept change and loss, I emerge from this experience confident and strong, knowing that God is in all, through all, and as all. And from Psalm 27:1, the Lord is my light and my salvation, whom shall I fear? The Lord is a stronghold of my life, of whom shall I be afraid? So the lesson again, mystery and silence via negativa. Well, that psalm I just read speaks about God as light. And yet the great German mystic Meister Eckhart once said, God is super essential darkness. What does that mean? Super essential darkness. I think it means that God is mystery and that God can be found in the dark. In the study of creation spirituality, mystery and darkness are associated with the path of the Via Negativa. Dr. Matthew Fox says we can name our journey to wholeness in 4 paths: the via positiva, the via negativa, via creativa, and via transformativa. These are the 4 paths of creation spirituality, a teaching rediscovered by Fox from his deep study of the Western and Eastern mystical traditions. Creation spirituality shares many of the teachings and principles of unity. Last week we talked about the blessing and awe of the universe as described in the first path, via positiva. The path begins in original blessing and teaches us the cosmic breadth of living, of our relationship to all of the wonders of creation. It helps us to remember to pause and to experience awe and reverence, and to fall in love at least 3 times a day. Doesn't have to be with a lover, maybe with an animal or a tree, a person, or a star, a galaxy. While the via positiva teaches us the cosmic breadth of living, the via negativa opens us to our divine depths. We experience everythingness in the via positiva, followed by nothingness in the via negativa. We learn that we are cosmic beings, not only in our joy and ecstasy, positiva, but also in our pain and sorrow, via negativa. We can say the via positiva is like the call to adventure, in the words of Joseph Campbell, the call to awakening. And the via negativa is the journey itself. It is the journey into the great mystery of the self, the mystery of God. The via negativa is a more feminine path, and it also teaches us about darkness, mystical depths, emptying, letting go, pain, suffering, and silence. Now, we have all had experiences of the via negativa. Anytime we are still and silent in meditation, those moments when we experience a mystical awakening, times in our life when we're attempting to let go and let God, those dark nights of the soul, as well as lesser experiences of pain and suffering. You know, we are all certainly in a collective dark night at this time. It is a time of via negativa for us all. Someone said it sounds like the via positiva is heaven and the via negativa is hell. Well, that is not exactly correct. But isn't that how we think in the Western world about light and darkness? Light is all good and darkness is all bad. I like what Mark Twain said. I don't like to commit myself about heaven and hell. You see, I have friends in both places. Well, there was a Sunday bulletin blooper that said, tonight's sermon, what is hell? Come early and listen to our choir practice. No reference to any particular choir. Well, Billy Graham has described heaven as a family reunion that never ends. A reporter responded to this, what must hell possibly be like? Home videos of the same reunion? One more heaven and hell joke. The Reverend Billy Graham tells of a time early in his career when he arrived in a small town to preach a sermon, and wanting to mail a letter, he asked a young boy where the post office was. Well, when the boy had told him, Dr. Graham thanked him and said, you know, if you'll come to the Baptist church this evening, you can hear me telling everybody how to get to heaven. I don't think I'll be there, said the boy. You don't even know your way to the post office. Well, the via negativa is not hell, but it does include the realm of suffering and shadow. And we experience it when we are in a healing mode, when we are in the birth canal waiting for the birth to occur, and grace comes calling. Author and healer Chris Griscom gives us a powerful example of grace coming in the form of adversity. Like many of us in the Western world, Chris was blessed with relative freedom from the devastating effects of war, famine, and plague that still afflict millions worldwide. But in the 1960s, while serving in the Peace Corps, Chris came to know many souls who walked in the valley of the shadow of death. Before she began working with indigenous peoples in El Salvador, Bolivia, and Paraguay, death kept a respectable distance. She said death was a foreign language to me, an abstract idea. I had never experienced its sounds, its smells, its devastation, or imagined that it would in any way shape my destiny. So one day in a small village in El Salvador, Chris, still cloaked in innocence, met death in the form of an infant girl whom she held while waiting for an overworked doctor to attend to her. Chris looked down into the eyes of this strangely quiet child, cradled in her arms, unprepared for what was about to happen. Suddenly those eyes swept past me or through me, she said, into some unimaginable void, and with an unforgettable shudder, she died. In one timeless flash of perception, my brain recorded every minute detail, the final expulsion of air, the smell of her flesh, her empty eyes, and a sensation of weight change in my arms. With a scream, Chris flung the lifeless child into the doctor's arms and fled. Unprepared for such an intimate encounter with death, her entire being recoiled with the feeling. Not in my arms. This incident shattered her youthful innocence. Well, the next night, Chris awoke in the darkness to see the dead girl's spirit form facing her. Surrounded by brilliant light, this apparition communicated a profound message. With great compassion before fading back into the night, the spirit said, "The choice of my death was my own. The time of my death was my gift to you." Well, Chris's vision and her haunting sense of a timeless connection to this child, whom she'd known only minutes on the earth, left her in what she called a breathless state of expanded awareness and awe, and with an absolute certainty that we are more than these bodies. She was plunged directly into mystery, into the via negativa. Matthew Fox, in his book Original Blessing, said, "The Enlightenment has rendered all of us who live in Western civilizations citizens of the light and of lights, questers after left brain, which is light-oriented satisfaction. The invention of the light bulb and electricity and neon lights and handy light switches was a marvelous outgrowth of the Enlightenment's technological achievements. And with the light bulb, there came also the radio. So now, not only were our eyes attracted to what is outside of us, but our ears were as well. With television, we experience a new kind of light machine, one that combines eyes and ears, light and radio to allure us out of ourselves. Then came colored television, even more alluring and demanding. Religion, too, has become very light-oriented in the West. The religion of positivism is almost all light. And the sentimental hymns that ignore the dark or reduce it to human sin and therefore to salvation contribute to the excessive lighting of the world. He says, "What price have we paid as a people for all this light? We have become afraid of the dark. afraid of no light, of silence, therefore, of imagelessness. We pursue more images, more light, more profits, more goodies. And in the process, our souls shrivel up. For growth of the human person takes place in the dark, underground, in subterranean passages, there where no image has ever reached into the soul's foundation. God alone works. The way of the unconscious mind or the right brain is the way of darkness. The depths of our beings are not all sunlight. To see clearly, we must be willing to dive into the dark, inner abyss, and to acknowledge the creatures we may find there. So Fox said our religions are light-oriented, and that certainly includes unity and New Thought in general. I very much believe that Via Negativa is an important answer for unity. For sometimes with our teachings, there can be a tendency to focus so much on the positive, on the light, that we may ignore our challenges by not facing the dark. I witnessed this at a Unity conference some years back. It was actually in Minneapolis years ago, and I got rather political because there was a small group fighting to take over Unity Worldwide Ministries. I was essentially fighting for Unity to stay spiritual rather than to go more corporate. And I was amazed at the number of ministers and other Unity folks who were afraid of conflict, afraid to name that which was negative or wrong in the situation. This is truly a negative side effect of our teachings, and also in the spiritual and religious arena. You know, we must be willing to face the shadow and to name it, just as Unity co-founder Myrtle Fillmore did when she healed herself of tuberculosis. She did not ignore it. She didn't pretend it wasn't there. She went into it and she listened to it and she talked to it with positive words. She did not pretend it was not there. She acknowledged it, but did not give it power over her. So we do not deny a problem, we just deny its power over us. And that's a significant difference. We do not deny a problem, we just deny its power over us. I see you, but you have no power over me. You cannot take my good from me. Then we send the light, the positive affirmations, and so forth. When we are willing to dive into the Via Negativa, the pain, the shadow, the trouble, the silence, we may find healing for ourselves and for others. Well, the author and healer Chris Griscom, who I mentioned earlier, was to become intimately acquainted with the angel of death after that first experience of having the infant die in her arms. She said the angel of death would open her to an expansive life and teach her lessons about the courage to surrender. She was to hold other innocents at the moment of death, feeling an excruciating pierce to the heart, followed by an increasing capacity to surrender to God. At age 40, in a Mexican hospital, while being treated for a minor wound, Chris was given an anesthetic to which she was allergic. Her heart and her breathing stopped. She said, "My awareness underwent the most fantastic energetic explosions as it pulled up and out of my body and entered into a dimension of light." In this, the first of 6 near-death experiences Chris Griscom would encounter, she was unconscious and near death for an hour. When she returned, further tests revealed a severely damaged left ventricle. Her doctors recommended bypass surgery, but the operation had to be postponed due to a severe case of typhoid fever Chris had contracted. Well, it turned out to be a blessing in disguise. She said, as often happens during episodes of profound illness, a strange clarity or expansion of awareness enabled me to perceive my light body as distinct from the one lying on the bed. Guided by this clarity, I superimposed the heart of my light body onto my damaged physical heart so as to re-imprint the structure of the heart. Now, to some, this may seem a metaphysical abstraction, yet within 3 days, the doctors were shaking their heads saying, "This can't be. We have a different electrocardiograph reading." While this may seem far-fetched, recent discoveries in cellular biology show our cells can instantaneously and measurably respond to our visualizations. And by this means, we can intentionally stimulate remarkable healing processes that are mysterious and also miraculous. Well, Chris experienced the mystery, the healing, the grace that comes through adversity. And that is certainly one powerful description of the Via Negativa. Many of us now are plunged into the Via Negativa and feeling pain during this time with our loss of so many lives through COVID-19 and with the loss of jobs and incomes and housing, not to mention the loss of a way of life. We have become more isolated. The sadness and the grief that we feel is part of that path, the Via Negativa. Yet let us remember to leave our home computers for a time, our light screens, and take time in silence and meditation and feel our feelings. The Japanese poet Kenji Miyazawa left us a powerful image of dealing with pain when he said, "We must embrace pain and burn it as a fuel for our journey. We pick up our pain as we would a bundle of sticks for a fireplace. We necessarily embrace these sticks as we move across the room to the fireplace. Then we thrust them into the fire, getting rid of them, letting go of them. Finally, we are warmed and delighted by their sacrificial gift to us in the form of fire and heat and warmth and energy." This is the manner in which we can and indeed must deal with our pain. First comes the embrace, feeling the feelings, the allowing of pain to be pain. Next comes the journey with the pain, then the letting go. But in a very deliberate manner, into a fire, into a cauldron, where the pain's energy will serve us. And finally comes the benefit we do indeed derive from having burned this fuel. Pain is meant to give us energy. But what might some of this energy look like? Well, first, pain helps us to understand other people in pain. It is a schooling in compassion. Second, pain helps us to understand pleasure and to criticize it. It opens us to the preciousness of life. Third, pain gives us energy because it toughens us up. We become stronger through its tests. There's a strength of endurance and perseverance that is learned. Fourth, another energy derived from pain is the manner in which letting pain be pain links us with others. Pain shared, unemployment shared, unjust taxes shared, the bitter taste of racism, of sexism, of ageism, all shared. Nonviolence is born of the shared experience of the pain of violence. And fifth, pain teaches us to open up. Our pain is a cosmic pain and helps us to identify with the universe itself. All creatures suffer pain, and pain unites us and urges us to cosmic celebration, cosmic healing. Facing the darkness, admitting the pain, allowing the pain to be pain is never easy. This is why courage, big-heartedness, is the most essential virtue on the spiritual journey. Well, it's also important that we do not glorify pain or cling to it or wallow in it. The purpose of letting pain be pain is to finally let go of pain. And we can let go and let God through silence. About 14 years ago now, when my first husband died, I was in grief. We had been divorced already about 28 years at the time, though we had remained distant friends. And still, I felt a deep pain that I had left some things unsaid at the end. You know, they say there's no time or space in those kinds of moments. And that's really what it felt like. So I was really stuck with this pain, and I chose to stick with it. I did not try to avoid it. I felt it acutely for days. I even went to hospice for counseling. And finally, when I was in a very deep silence, I had a dream that he came to me. He was about to cross a bridge, and I was able to tell him what had been unsaid. It was very real. And I thanked him, and he thanked me, and he went over the bridge, and then the pain amazingly just left me. It was a profound healing dream. You know, the silence, another aspect of the Via Negativa, is a powerful remedy for pain. It is the place we feel the pain and also experience the healing. So in this second path, we can find both suffering and healing. We embrace both the dark and the light. A rowdy, confident 6-year-old showed his shadow side. At the end of his first day at school, he came running home and he burst through the door shouting, "Mom, Mom, guess what? They want me back." Well, in Unity, we often speak about going into the silence. Charles and Myrtle Fillmore, the co-founders, used to call that point beyond time and space, where we meet God in the depths of meditation, the silence. It is almost like entering a short period of hibernation. In his science class, a 10-year-old named Jeff was studying about hibernation. And he brought his test paper home the day after the exam. And one question was, into what state of inactivity do animals go during the winter months? Jeff had penciled in his answer, Florida. Well, silence may be like hibernating, where we're completely alone for a long period of time or for the length of a meditation. We can be silent with people present as well, but in the beginning, it's more effective to be alone. Silence is about listening to God. But in this world of speed and busyness, silence is a luxury, though it is somewhat different now, not quite as busy. If we, will allow it to be, silence can be a luxury. Many have more alone time, certainly, more time to reflect. Paul Lee Tan said, "It takes a baby approximately 2 years to learn to talk, and between 60 and 70 years to learn to keep its mouth shut." Steve Brundage said, "My Aunt Karen is the mother of 2 high-spirited young girls. When I called her one morning, Our conversation was constantly interrupted by the din of kids screaming and chasing each other. "Could you hold on for a moment?" my aunt finally asked, putting down the phone. Within 10 seconds, all I could hear was absolute silence. Then she said, "Okay, I'm back." "But it's so quiet," I exclaimed. "You must have complete control over those two." "Not really," my aunt confessed wearily. "I'm in the closet." Jesus said that when you pray, go into your room and shut the door and pray to your Father who is in secret, and your Father who sees in secret will reward you. These instructions given by Jesus to go into our room can refer to turning within to the divine presence. We enter into the closet of our being, the very innermost part of ourselves, by turning our thoughts within and closing our mind to to anything of the outer world that would intrude. We can begin with a simple affirmative prayer, such as, "The Father and I are one. The Mother and I are one." Then we become still, absolutely still. We relax every part of our being, and while we wait and let God will work marvelous changes in us. So this week I invite you to follow the commandment of the Via Negativa. Remember the one for the Via Positiva? It was, "Thou shalt fall in love at least 3 times a day." Well, the one for the Via Negativa is dare the dark. Dare the dark. Go within, meditate, pray, surrender. Take time to feel your pain, your grief. Identify where it is in your body, and then breathe into it until you finally feel the tension leave. Second, meditate on God as super essential darkness and mystery, and see what happens. Third, turn off the lights some point at night and just feel the peace. In closing today, the great poet Rilke said, "You darkness that I come from, I love you more than all the fires that fence in the world. For the fire makes a circle of light for everyone, and then no one outside learns of you, but the darkness pulls in everything, shapes and fires, animals and myself. How easily it gathers them, powers and people. And it is possible a great energy is moving near me. I have faith in nights." We can call this process of befriending darkness and silence and darkenment. Not enlightenment, but endarkenment. So may you become filled with God in the silence. May you go into the depths of the Great Mother and become endarkened. God bless you. Goddess bless you. Have a wonderful week.